Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting series here at International Mentoring Center, where we continue to pursue our mission to empower mentors and mentees worldwide by fostering a community of learning, growth, and professional development. At IMC, we believe that mentorship is one of the most powerful tools for personal and professional transformation. And through this platform, industry experts and leaders will share insights, knowledge, and best practices to elevate global awareness on mentoring standards. My name is Ira, and I will be your host. Feel free to drop your questions or thoughts throughout the chat during the presentation, and we'll make sure to address as much as we can towards the end of the presentation. And stay with us till the end of this webinar to earn a certificate and credits from IMC. So without further ado, our speaker today is a distinguished social entrepreneur, mentor, and a life coach with over 2 decades of international experience spanning the US, India, and the Middle East. With a diverse background in engineering, education, ICT, advertising, and community welfare, he has led transformative initiatives in both for-profit and nonprofit sectors, driving social change through mentorship, leadership, and strategic business consulting. Let us all welcome our guest speaker, Sam Samuel.
Ada, thank you so much for that warm introduction. Am I audible? Okay, great. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Wherever you are tuning in from today, thank you for being here. Let me just first share my screen. All right. Can you confirm that you're able to see my screen?
Yes, we can see it perfectly.
Great. Okay. Now, before we dive in, I want to share a short story. One might feel it as very small, simple, but I believe it holds the soul of mentorship. So some years ago, a young professional was navigating her first leadership role. Obviously nervous, unsure, and constantly second-guessing herself. Now, her mentor didn't hand her a manual or deliver grand advices. He simply asked her a question at the end of every meeting. What did you notice today that no one else did? At first, she struggled to answer, but slowly, her gaze sharpened. Her confidence grew, not because she was told what to see, but because someone trusted her to see. And I believe that is mentorship at its best. It is not about being the expert in the room. It is all about creating space for someone else to become one. A poet and activist, Muriel Rukeyser, once wrote, "The world is not made of atoms. It is made of stories. And every mentor is a story stirrer, a confidence cultivator, a mirror, and a map." So what is the art of mentorship? Steven Spielberg once said, "The delicate balance of mentoring someone is not creating them in your own image, but giving them the opportunity to create themselves." So mentorship is not replication, it is amplification. It is not about sculpting someone into our reflection. It's about holding up a mirror until they see the greatness within themselves. Let me take you to the story of Benjamin Graham, the father of value investing. He didn't just teach Warren Buffett how to read financial statements. He taught him how to question, how to think. And Buffett once said, Ben was his incredible teacher, but he never tried to mold me into a mini version of himself. And I believe that is the essence of mentorship. Not giving people answers, but inviting them into the questions that lead them to their own awakening. And yet, as we guide others through their growth, something unexpected happens. And what is that? We grow too. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. A very famous quote by Viktor Frankl in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. And every meaningful mentorship is a two-way mirror. So as mentors, we are not just imparting wisdom. We are being refined. We confront our values. We calibrate our integrity. We sharpen our presence. Consider Nelson Mandela. After spending 27 years in Victor Verster prison, as he was walking out from the Victor Verster prison, he said this to himself, and then he later wrote in his autobiography, "If I do not leave my bitterness behind, I'll continue to be a prisoner for the rest of my life." So after 27 years behind bars, he emerged not bitter, but better. A man of restraint, of vision, of deep humility. He mentored through how he worked, how he listened, and how he forgave. And he once said, with freedom comes responsibilities. And mentorship, I believe, is one of those responsibilities. In guiding others, we rise ourselves. Now, how do we pass that torch effectively? How do we ensure mentorship leaves more than just advices behind? Tell me, and I forget. Teach me, I may remember. Involve me, and I learn. A very popular statement by Benjamin Franklin. Mentorship isn't a lecture. It is a dialogue. And it is not about passing on instructions. It's not about sharing content. Inviting participation. I would say co-authoring ideas. Angela Duckworth, in her powerful book, Grit, reveals that passion and perseverance, not just talent, are what truly drive success. So as mentors, let us not just teach our mentees to win. Let's teach them to lose with grace, to learn through setbacks, and to bounce back with strength. And Sheryl Sandberg captures it beautifully. Leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence and ensuring that impacts last in your absence. And that's the goal. To build something that echoes after we have stepped away. It should be a lasting impact. And when do we do this? When we truly pour into people. The results stretch far beyond projects and performance. And they enter the realm of legacy. What is the essence of legacy? When you leave behind is not what is engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others is what matters, states Pericles. Legacy isn't carved into the marble, it is carried in people. Look at Maya Angelou and opera. Maya didn't hand opera a manual of success. She reminded her that she already had the ingredients, period. Now, Oprah later said, mentorship is when someone allows you to see the hope inside yourself. And that is what we are really here to do. Not to take or make mentees more like us, but to help them become more like themselves. But this is not a passive act. It calls for intention. It calls for vision. And above all, it calls for action. So it's all about a call to action. And Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, it's a very simple statement, but it's a very powerful statement. He says that be the change you wish to see in this world. We need to remind our mentees that they have the choice, the power, the opportunity to make a difference in this world. So look around not for followers, but for leaders in the making. And ask yourself, who needs to be seen today? Who is silently waiting for validation? And who reminds of you of yourself before someone believed in you? And I believe that's the most important thing, because your mentorship, your words, your time, your belief could be the turning point in someone else's life. And this is more than a role. It is a legacy in motion. But how do we do this well? Especially in the real, often messy, day-to-day rhythm of work and life? That is exactly what we are here to explore today. Let's walk through the timeless principles, 9 of them, and don't look upon these principles as just bullet points, but as beacons for anyone who wants to mentor with impact and intentionality. And let's begin where all great journeys start. And what is that? With purpose. So the first point, the first principle is start with clear goals and aligned expectation. That's very important. So every journey worth taking begins with the destination in mind. Now think of mentorship like sailing. So without a compass, even the finest ship will drift. So ask, why are we here? Are you helping someone weather a professional storm? Or perhaps guiding them into new leadership shores? Clarify it all. How often you will meet, what success looks like, and how you will measure growth. Now remember Stephen Covey's wisdom. Begin with the end in mind. So when both mentor and mentee holds the same map, the voyage becomes more meaningful. Not a wandering, but a work towards something greater. So this first principle is very important. I think that's a base, that's a fundamental thing. To start with clear goals and aligned expectation. The next one Step number 2, build trust first and always. Trust is a soil from which all growth emerges. Not watered in one conversation, but cultivated like a bonsai, gently, patiently, over time. Think of Atticus Finch, from To Kill a Mockingbird, a man who listened deeply, even to those who disagreed with him. To be trusted is greater compliment than to be loved, says George MacDonald. So building that trust is the most important thing in a mentor-mentee relationship. So create a space where your mentee can take off their armor, speak their truth, and not to be judged, but heard. Because transformation begins where fear ends. The third principle, give feedback that helps. Now, feedback is a sacred tool, no questions asked. But when it is wielded with care, think of it pruning a bonsai. Now, if you're becoming too harsh and you kill the form, too timid, and what happens? You allow chaos. The sweet spot is being honest, specific, and being kind. And don't say, good job. Say, the way you stayed composed under fire, that showed real leadership. Flannery O'Connor once said, truth does not change according to our ability to stomach it. A mentor doesn't sugarcoat, but they also don't shame. They guide, they illuminate. So the goal is not perfection. It is always about progress. The fourth principle of mentorship is encouraging independence, not dependence. Very important. A mentor's job is not to create carbon copies, period. It is to build architects, not to, not to replicate another you in there. So instead of giving all the answers, ask, what options are you considering? And at times they will wrestle with ambiguity. It's fine. Let them grow. General Patton once said, don't tell people how to do things. Now tell them what to do and let them surprise you with their ingenuity. Lead them to the water, but let them find their own way to cross. Another most important principle of mentorship is being consistent. Not only being consistent, also being prepared. Now, consistency is the heartbeat of trust. Every jazz has a rhythm. Set your rhythm. Weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever works, just show up. Don't give excuses. John Maxwell once said, small disciplines repeated with consistency every day lead to great achievements. And when you arrive prepared. Review the notes. Respect your mentee's time. Raise the bar. And that simple act says that you matter. And that changes every single thing. What's the next principle? Adapt to the mentee's style and needs. Many times as mentors, we fail in this particular aspect. We have our own style. Remember, one-size mentorship fits no one, period. Some mentees are like, spreadsheets. Others are symphonies. Some speak in bullet points, others in poetry. As mentors, we need to adjust. Like how Bruce Lee once said, be water, my friend, be water. And many a times we consider flexibility as a weakness. No, it's actually wisdom. And when you adapt, you elevate. Seventh, think long term and not just task oriented. What if we stopped asking, what do you do? And start asking, who are you becoming? Now, mentorship isn't about grooming someone for a promotion. It's about aligning them with their purpose. And talk to them about values, identity, legacy. Alexandra Trenford once said, the best teachers are those who show you where to look, but don't tell you what to see. So when you shape character, you don't just change jobs, you actually change lives. Principle number 8, reflect and adjust as you go. Even the seasoned pilots, they check their instruments mid-flight. And don't let the mentorship run on autopilot. Ask, is this still serving you? Is this still serving your purpose? Reflect with them. Reroute and refocus. In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities. In the experts, few. So stay curious, even about, your own mentoring. Last but not the least, many times we fail in this. Celebrate wins. Could be big, even small. Now, don't wait for the right moment to celebrate. Applaud the quiet courage of speaking up. The small win of showing up despite, their fear. Success is a sum of small efforts, repeated day in and day out, says Robert Collier. And after every milestone, don't just clap. Ask them what's next. Because that's what mentors do. They don't just raise hands, they raise vision. You don't need to have all the answers to be a mentor. No, it doesn't work all the time. You just need to show up with presence, with patience, and a fire that says, I see the leader in you, and I will walk with you. Because that is what mentorship truly is. It's not a role, a responsibility, not a task, a torch. And let's carry this forward. One interesting question that many of the mentors ask is like how to choose whom to mentor. And this is a very important question. Choosing the right person to mentor is just as important as being willing to mentor in the first place. And a successful mentorship is built on mutual respect, trust, and the willingness to learn from each other. It's mutual. And as a mentor, you will often find that you learn just as much from your mentee as they do from you. So the relationship should feel valuable on both sides. Look for authenticity. Now, it's a fact that not everyone who seeks mentorship is truly interested in growth. No. Some may be focused on quick personal gains, financial benefits, or using the relationship as a shortcut to success. That is why it's important to assess whether someone is sincere about building a genuine connection and willing to invest in the process. A strong mentee clearly shows curiosity, commitment, humility, and initiative, not just ambition. Trust your instincts, but at the same time, don't judge too quickly. Sometimes you will come across someone who seems eager to learn. But for whatever reasons, personality differences, communication styles, or values, you sense that you are not the right person for them. That's not the right fitment, and which is okay. Not every match will be ideal. And a mismatch can make the experience frustrating for both ends. Right. Other times, you might feel people who appear to already, know it all kind of attitude. So in such cases, mentorship may not be the best use of your time unless they show signs of being open to feedback and change. But that said, avoid making snap judgments. Give people a benefit of doubt and let a few honest conversations reveal their true nature. So often, authenticity becomes clear over time. So give it time for it. Most importantly, focus on relationship building. So, at its heart, mentorship is all about building a meaningful relationship. It is not about sharing career advices. It is about listening, understanding them, challenging their assumptions, and helping someone grow through shared stories, differing perspectives, personal insights. And when you and your mentee connect on a human level, that is exactly where the transformation happens. This is very interesting and very important. Mentorship through the ages. Alvin Toffler says, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. That's most important. So once upon a time, mentorship was like a lighthouse, steady, fixed, illuminating the same path for every ship that sailed by. But when it comes to Gen Alpha, they are not ships on a single route. They are like drones navigating multidimensional skies, agile, curious, intuitive, and ever upgrading. There's this very famous Chinese proverb which says, to know the road ahead, ask those coming back. Let me take you back, not just a decade, not a century, but across the tapestry of time where mentorship has always been the invisible thread tying generations to greatness. Now, it began in the pavilion of ancient Greece. As you rightly guessed, the Socratic wisdom. Socrates, the mentor for Plato. Plato mentored Aristotle. Now, Aristotle mentored Alexander the Great. Now, imagine that for a second. A philosopher teaches a thinker. That thinker teaches a visionary. And that visionary, he goes on to change the map of the world. So mentorship in ancient times was dialogue, not slides, no metrics, just wisdom passed in courtyards and under olive trees. It was oral legacy, not instructional designs. So back then, mentors were not managers. They were midwives of thoughts, helping ideas to be born. Then comes the age of craft. Fast forward to the Middle Age, blacksmiths, weavers, stonemasons. Knowledge was not written there, it was witnessed. An apprentice lived with his master. They didn't just learn how to do things, they absorbed why they mattered. So in The Craftsman, Richard Sennett says, craftsmanship means dwelling on the task for its own sake because you care. That's mentorship passing on care, not just competence. Then comes the industrial age, moving to a knowledge-based economy, from workshops to whiteboard. As a world, mechanized, that they've started mechanizing, so did mentorship. It became structured. Corporate mentorship programs, development charts, feedback forms. But in this shift, we risked something. We began to confuse mentorship with management and wisdom with metrics. That's where we failed. Yet amidst all this, a quiet revolution stirred. That brings us to this emotional age, mentoring the whole human. I'm sure most of us have read this book, Becoming by Michelle Obama. Clearly speaks of mentors not just guiding her career, but her confidence. In that book, she writes, I have been mentored by people who saw strength in me when I couldn't see it in myself. So now, mentorship was no longer about teaching someone to climb the ladder. It was helping them build one of their own. And now, today, we stand at the edge of a new epoch. It's a complete transformation. And what is that? Mentoring in the digital age, the AI age, the age of Gen Alpha. This generation has never known a world without smartphones, AI assistants, and YouTube tutorials. They are creators by instinct, not by training. And they prefer instant feedback over delayed praise, immersive learning over theoretical lectures, values over volume, empathy over expertise. They don't want to be told where to go. They want to explore how to get anywhere. They don't respond to control. They respond to collaboration. They are raised on TikTok, but they carve truth. They can Google answers, but they long for authentic questions. So this is the new generation, and this is how do we mentor them? How do we reach out to them? Simple. Don't just give them a map. Teach them how to navigate the stars. This generation is wired for speed, but at the same time, they are aching for stillness. They may speak emoji, but they seek empathy. In Drive by Daniel Pink, we learned that true motivation comes from autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And these are the pillars Gen Alpha thrives on. So, as mentors, how do we meet them there? How do we mentor them? So, to mentor them, we must evolve once again. Not to know more, but to listen deeper. Not to lecture, but to co create. As I said before, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And I believe many a times this is applicable for us as mentors. And so too is with mentorship. Gone are the days when mentorship meant a corner coffee table, conversations once a month, coffee with a seasoned executive in a press suit. Now, mentorship today is no longer a ladder, it's a web. It's time we embrace what I call it as fluid mentorship. Not fixed, not hierarchical, not tethered to tradition, but being adaptive, organic, decentralized, and more democratic. From marble to water, a shift in the form. That's how we get to Gen Alpha. As I said, once mentorship was like carved like yours, stone heavy, deliberate, immovable. Today it flows like water finding cracks, reaching corners, adapting to shape. Think of it this way. Traditional mentorship is a monologue, and fluid mentorship is a conversation. It doesn't ask, what do I know? Instead, it says, what can we learn together? It's peer to peer, it is cross generational, and sometimes it is AI to humans. And there are many faces to fluid mentorship. One, for example, is micro mentors, the podcast host who changes your mindset in 30 minutes. Or reverse mentors, the intern who teaches the CEO how Gen Z really thinks. Another interesting aspect is your crowdsourced mentors, the online community that helps you through imposter syndrome at 2 a.m. We have AI mentors today, the chatbots that teach us to code, write resumes, answer career questions. And then we also have peer mentors, your teammates who listens, lifts you up, and levels with you without ever claiming to lead. The beauty? Everyone becomes both mentor and mentee, like breathe in and breathe out. So it's a rise of a digital sage. Let me take you to a teenager in Nairobi, coding after school, learning from a 15-minute tutorial posted by a YouTuber in Finland, who herself was once mentored by Reddit forums and GitHub comments. And that's, my friends, is mentorship. It is mentorship without handshake, without meeting, but at the same time, with impact. Every interaction now is clearly a potential mentorship moment. A voice note, a tweet, a Discord reply. These are the new scrolls of wisdom. Now, the mentor of the future is a bridge spanning tradition and innovation. They are part elder, part learner, part lighthouse, part compass. And they do not just transfer knowledge, and we fail if we try to just do that. They transmit belief. Because at every point in history, the heart of mentorship has stayed the same. To light a fire that outlives you. Let me tell you about a mentor named Keating from the Dead Poets Society. He didn't hand his students a rule book. He made them stand on desks and see differently. And he said, we must constantly look at things in a different way. And that's exactly what today's mentors must do. Because Gen Alpha doesn't learn by listening. They learn by exploring. They don't follow, but they collaborate. They are born swiping screens, not flipping pages. And so, the mentor can no longer be a sage on the stage. They must become a guide on the side. The tools of mentorship must now include narrative-based mentoring, share stories, not just steps. Use parables, experiences. Failures turn wisdom. Do reverse mentoring. Let them teach you sometime. Why not? It empowers them and refines you. Gamification. Turn leadership into an experience, not a task. Emotional intelligence coaching. Help them decode their feelings in a chaotic world. Very important. Margaret Mead once said, children must be taught how to think, not what to think. So my question is, are we mentoring for compliance or for curiosity? Are we giving them answers or inviting them into better questions? Now think of the mentorship between Steve Jobs and Johnny Ive. It wasn't hierarchical. It was a symbiotic. They challenged, nurtured, and elevated one another. And I strongly believe that's how mentorship must evolve today. Mutual growth, shared discovery, and deep respect. My final thought, the mentor as a mirror. Remember, we are no longer potters shaping clay. We are mirrors reflecting potential until our mentees see it themselves. And again, with Gen Alpha, with their boldness, their emotion, their intuition, they don't want perfection. They want presence. So show up, not with all the answers, but with all your heart. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. It's again a very, very powerful quote by Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. So I ask you, or I would say that not to teach your mentees, but to transform. Not to lecture, but to listen. Not to lead from above, but to walk beside them. And fluid mentorship demands that we be present, that we evolve, that we unlearn rigidity, that we trust that wisdom isn't always aged and guidance isn't always vertical. Mentorship, let me remind you, as Oprah once said, is when someone allows you to see the hope inside yourself. So, as mentors, let's be hope givers, not just mentors. Because it is a fluid age, we don't raise mentees. Remember, we raise possibilities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sam, for that very philosophical and enlightening webinar. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and your thoughts on empowering through professional and personal development for our mentees, especially the different age groups. How do we mentor them? How do we reach out to them? And how do we connect to them? So thank you so much, Sam, for that. And we invite everybody for Q&A. If you have any questions, any thoughts that may have resonated with you throughout the presentation, please feel free to write them on the chat, or you can unmute your microphones, and we'd love to hear your questions.
Hi, Dr. Sam. I'm Al Chan here, coming from Malaysia.
Hey.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question. Yeah, what happens if a mentee are stubborn and unable to take in advice despite many times you've been telling them the same thing?
Your question was like, what happens if a mentee is very stubborn and asks the same questions and is not kind of following what the kind of guidance that you're providing? Precisely. Is that your question?
Yeah, precisely.
Okay.
Correct.
So exactly. So if you would have definitely followed my slide, these are very important aspects of identifying who your mentees are. And it definitely doesn't happen through 1-2 sessions as it is. It's a journey by itself. And you definitely come across people who might follow you, might not follow you, irrespective. So it's all about patience, number one. It's all about understanding what exactly and what is their stuck stages. Why are they being stubborn? So I might not have a very concrete answer, but the thing is that because it, as I said, like one size doesn't fit in all. So it differs from person to person. But the thing is that patient listening is where you get a clue, where you'll get your first instant of like, what's wrong? Where is it going wrong with this particular mentee? And, constantly probe questions to understand them more. It's very important. Let them speak. Let us be more of a listeners. At least the initial few sessions, it should be like your 80-20 principle. Let them speak for 80% of the time. And let us be keen listeners, understand them, what is challenging for them. And I think that's the best way out. Yeah.
Thank you, Sam. I hope that answered your question, AI. Chan?
Yeah, thank you. I'm Al Chan anyway,
Alkan,
not
sorry about
artificial
that.
intelligence. Okay, fine.
We are all AI in one form.
I have another question here for you, Sam. How do I identify and bring up a young Gen Alpha leader?
See, there is a huge generational gap. It's as I said, like Gen Alpha leaders, their tone, their reflections completely varies from at least from my generation. I do not know whom I'm speaking to, but then what generation do you belong to? But for me, it wasn't an easy journey for me to connect with them initially. Their pace, their style, their understanding. Um, but as I said, everyone, be it whatever generations, whatever Gen Zs do, wherever you belong to, the best way is to listen to them. That's the most important thing. Many a times we tend to give our wisdom to them initially, but that doesn't really work with them, particularly with Gen Alpha. So listen to them, let them speak, explore what their potentials are, explore, make them talk about, like, what do they want to do. And you might not initially find a lot of clarity, because they don't fit into one particular aspect all the time. They always want to explore, they always want to experiment things. So it's a very tricky scenario, but at the same time it's a very interesting scenario as well. I don't find it as a complex thing, but it's a very interesting aspect to mentor a Gen Alpha, because there's a lot for us to learn. There is a lot for us to become fluid. But then over a few sessions, following this 80-20 principle, making them speak, I believe that we will be able to find clues and cues of, like, where and what their hidden talents and expertise are. And that's where we try to further evolve and try to speak on that particular aspect and make them speak again about it, explore further. And there might be a lot of experiments here and there. Some might be successful, some might not be, but then it's all about exploration that comes with that generation. And we flow with that generation. It's a very interesting journey, and trust me, soon or later we find that potential in that particular mentee, and we take it from there.
Thank you, Sam, for that. Another question is, how do you balance offering guidance while still empowering someone to lead their own path?
So this doesn't go two sides. This is very mutual. As I said, like, today's mentor relationships is not about monologues. So the same time we give guidance, it is not about guidance. It's basically, as I said, the whole presentation was all about, I believe that what I was trying to say is that it's a journey together, period. So understanding each other, learning from each other. We provide our life experiences, our guidances, our wisdom, at the same time understanding their experiences, their perspectives about life, their perspectives about their future, their perspectives, be it a career, be it about life vision, no matter what. So clearly aligning with what exactly they are looking from us, what their vision is. Our role is to clarify their vision, bring in more clarity to their vision. That's our whole purpose is. So our guidance is not about our wisdom, our experiences, but how our experience and our wisdom aligns with their wisdom and their vision. That's where we need to find this, the melting point, or what do I say, the actual pathway, or the meeting point, I would say.
Thank you, Sam. Another question here. I think this will be our last one. I'm a new mentor. Do you have any resources, like books, that has helped you structure your mentoring approach?
Oh, you are on the right platform. I think you are with IMC. The platform itself has a lot of resources, and my presentation was actually in alignment with the kind of principles that IMC kind of follows. I was kind of referring to that myself, when I was putting this presentation together. So you gotta, there's a lot of resources that is available with IMC itself, which as a person, as a mentor, whatever I can provide, I think this platform can provide much more. However, I'll be more than glad to, share, some of my, guiding documents, some of my, the places where I kind of go and look at. So I'll be more than glad to. My contacts are available here. Please feel free to reach out, connect me in LinkedIn, or we can take it up from there.
Thank you, Sam. And that wraps up our session for today. Thank you so much, everybody, for participating in our Q&A and sharing your thoughtful insights and questions. And special thanks to you, Sam, for sharing your invaluable insights and expertise. Your passion for leaving legacy, empowering growth through mentorship and personal and professional development was really powerful and inspiring. Any closing remarks from you, Sam?
No, it was great. Thank you for the platform. I really appreciate this, and thank you all for your time. And as I said, connect me in LinkedIn, and we'll take it up from there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if you are an individual seeking mentorship or credentials, or if you are a training provider seeking accreditations, please feel free to visit our website to know more. The link is shared on the chat. And as Sam said earlier, please feel free to reach out to him on LinkedIn to know more about his coaching and mentoring and other offerings that he's doing. And thank you all very much for joining us today. We hope you found this session inspiring and that it fuels your commitment to fostering meaningful mentorships. Join us again next week as we continue to explore, connect, and empower each other. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.